Get my 6, guys. I've been out here in the potential Bigfoot Sasquatch woods for about 30 minutes, walking around, strolling around. And I thought I'd just sit here and talk for a bit. For the same reason I always stop and talk when I stop and talk, because of potentially not being alone. And when something or someone is potentially throwing something at you, that's a pretty good indication. So get my 6, watch for movement, watch for shadows, watch for peekers. And I'm going to act like I'm not watching and not watch mostly until I look at the tail of the tape later and see what we pick up. But, I just wanted to share something. We're thinking really big here at the PBS. The potential Bigfoot Sasquatch show. In that, we are considering acquiring a sizable tract of land here close to our land. There's 6 or 8 that I pass every morning on my morning runs that are anywhere from 50 acres to 100 and plus acres. Most of them are for sale by owner. I've never minded paying fees for professionals. I have a CPA. He's got a degree from Harvard, law degree from Harvard. I pay him a pretty penny every year, but I'm sure the difference in what I save from him doing my taxes correctly is more than what I would save if I did it myself. I don't mind paying real estate agents. My first 8 years out of college, I was a stockbroker. And I don't know how many times, this was when E-Trade and Ameritrade, which I do now, was new. And people would come to me, they'd say, I inherited $200,000 and I thought I'd do it myself and this is all I have left. And they'd hand me a statement that, had about a $40,000 portfolio. And they'd say, can you help me? Can you help me recover some of my losses? And the little snooty, narcissist, bad guy in me would always want to say, well, think of the good news. At least you save money on commissions. Guys, there's something back there and I don't know what it is. You keep watching. But I would never say that. That's pretty arrogant. So anyway, my point is, there's one tract in particular we had our eyes on out here. And I wanted to take a look at it. So we were at lunch the other day. Me and my beautiful bride, Dearly, aka Giggly Girl, and our rewind and listen, use your headphones. So anyway, I know a guy who is an administrative assistant for a big real estate firm. I don't really know any real estate agents because I go out of my way not to really know a whole lot of people. So Dearly and I decided, okay, let's call this guy. Let's have him recommend somebody to maybe contact the owner of this land. And so we could get a plat, maybe take a look, see exactly where the property lines are and whatnot. And I said, okay, well, let me call him. And I waited before I made that call though, because there was a woman in there, a couple tables over from us, who had been on her cell phone the whole time we were in there. Just like she wanted everybody in the restaurant to hear her conversation. And she was, I don't know how many different people she was talking to, but she was like, I don't know if it seemed like she was in a bad mood, having a bad day. She's being kind of rude to everybody, especially her waiter, which he was our waiter too. I felt bad for the guy, young guy, hard worker. I remember I wasn't trying to eavesdrop. It's just this woman was so loud you could hear just about everything she was saying. She asked him if he was a grad student or something. It's kind of all flirty. And he said no. He said, my wife and I are new in town. And she was like, oh, wife. And all of a sudden, she wasn't being all flirty. And he said something that he had just gotten a job as a nurse, I think, at at the UVA hospital, or he had just gotten hired. They agreed to hire him. And she said something like, well, you must not be a very good nurse if you're waiting tables, something real snooty. And it was terrible. And he said, well, actually, I don't start for 2 more weeks. And my wife and I have a baby on the way. And I'm trying to be responsible and take care of my family even before, we're all fully here. And so that's why and I thought, oh, this poor guy, he owes this woman no explanation whatsoever. But he really, did you see that? It looked like something walked from behind one tree to another, and it had 2 legs. I'm going to have to rewind that and watch that. So anyway, you get the point. She's just being nasty to everybody. So I call my buddy, and he says, yeah, we've got somebody that's been with us for about a month now. She's kind of struggling. I'll have her call you. So I said, okay, and got off the phone. So we had an enjoyable lunch. That woman left well before us, and we were pretty happy about that. So we get in the car, and we start coming back out this way, and my cell phone rings. Well, I don't answer the phone when I'm driving. I do the speed limit or less. I have a ginormous SUV, a Toyota Sequoia. It's their largest luxury SUV that they make. It's one of the largest vehicles on the road. Guys, there's something back there that keeps drawing my attention. So anyway, my cell phone rings, and I say, well, whoever it is, they can leave a message, and I'll call them back if it's important. I didn't even look at the phone. So we're driving up the road, keep going. The phone rang 3 or 4 times and it stopped ringing. Well, all of a sudden, I look in my rearview mirror, and there's like a tiny car. I'm not going to say what kind of car, but there's a tiny car that had to be about a mile behind me. It was like one of the few straightaways on this part of this old country road out here. And it was like this thing had turbo boosters. It just came up on me, almost rear-ended me in a matter of like 5 seconds. And next thing I know, they're getting ready to run me over, trying to run me off the road. Tailgater, you guys know the kind. You know the type. You see it. You have to deal with them too. And there's this woman's face. She's so close. It's like her face is in my rear view, window. She's right there in my rear view mirror, and you could tell she's cussing, and she's throwing her hands up like, wah, wah. I'm like, my gosh, there's that crazy lady from the restaurant. So I told Dearly, I said, well, there's really nowhere for me to pull over here. I said, there's an old, what used to be a gas station, I think a million years ago up here. It's about 2 miles up the road. I'll pull over there, let this crazy lady by. She's obviously got somewhere she needs to be in a hurry. So we get on up the road almost to the spot, and the phone starts ringing again. I said, well, this is good timing. So I pull off the road. This crazy woman goes by on the passenger seat, or on the passenger side of the car. I couldn't see her because, she's in some tiny little car. But Dearly said she was cussing her out and flipping her off as she went by. I was like, wow, that's nuts. So I answer the phone. I stopped. I'm in park. I answer the phone. I will not talk on a cell phone when I'm in my car. It can wait. There's nothing so important that it's worth risking my family's life and safety. This is crazy. I never told you why I want to buy this land. I'll get to that. Well, I'll just tell you now, because he, she, it, or they are kind of on my mind, and perhaps potentially in my company. What we want to do is actually set up like a real bona fide potential Bigfoot Sasquatch reserve, to where it will be, we're going to post it. You cannot legally hunt or track or search out, seek out, or do any sort of research. Sorry, I know I was supposed to raise my squares and circles, but I swear to, it looked like there was a person standing there. Or something of person form. So anyway, we're going to set up I always want to say preserve, but that's something you eat. Reserves are set up for animals and creatures that you can't eat because you can't hunt them. So anyway, set up like a potential Bigfoot Sasquatch reserve. And because and it's got to be close to where we are because we're experiencing all this stuff here. So we know he, she, it, or they would certainly follow us there and make themselves at home there. And no, this isn't where we jump in and start the GoFundMe, e-begging, Patreon stuff, asking for money to buy. We've never done that. We never will. We pay our own way through this life, and we have the utmost respect for those who do as well. So anyway, keep watching back there. So I pull over, I answer the phone. I'm like, yeah. And she goes, hey, it's a woman. She says, my name's so-and-so. Our mutual friend so-and-so said you wanted to meet with me or with somebody about this piece of land. She told me the address. I said, yeah, that's, well, you got back to me quick. Thanks. She goes, I'm actually on my way out that way right now. Could you see it today? I said, we're on our way out there now too, because it's close to where we live. I said, we could be there in probably another 10 minutes. She said, okay, well, I'll be there. She goes, I'm on my way out that way actually already. She says, I might be a little late because there's some people driving crazy out here. I'm like, yeah, tell me about it, I know. And so we agreed to meet there. We get off the phone. We keep driving. And in less than 10 minutes, we're there. Now, this particular property, there's a very steep driveway. There's like a flat part at the bottom, and you can park there, but then there's like a wraparound driveway that goes up to where it flattens out again. And so we get there at the bottom of this long driveway, gravel driveway, going up to this property, and we see that little car that crazy lady was driving going up to the top of that property. And that's when it kind of occurred to me, and mind you, this is a woman we saw in the restaurant as well. I looked at Dearly and I said, honey, I think that real estate agent is that crazy lady in that car. I said, let's park down here at the bottom of the hill and walk up, because I want to see. So we parked at the bottom of the hill, and Daniel, our son, he's always taking his shoes off in the car whenever we go anywhere. So Dearly said, go ahead and start heading up. I'll help him with his shoes and wait for him, and we'll walk up behind you. I'm like, okay. And of course he can tie his own shoes and stuff. She's just, he lollygags doing it. Those of you who have small children know. So I walk up around the hill, and there she is. It's her. It's this crazy lady again. And she's leaning up against her car, and she's like, well, look at you. And I'm like, what, I got food on my shirt or something from lunch? What? And she starts walking towards me. She's in her mid-50s, and that's not old by any means. She's a little bit older than me, but not much. But she's trying to put herself together as if she's 20 or 30 years younger. Well, about that time, here comes my beautiful bride walking up the hill around the corner with our son. And of course, you've seen her in the videos. She is 20 to 30 years younger and looks even younger than that. And this woman's like, who's that? I said, well, that's my wife and our son. She goes, oh. So we go up there. She has a file. And the first thing she wants me to do is sign something stating that I'm not going to work with any agent other than her for at least 90 days. And if I do, she can sue me. I'm like, I'm not signing that. I said, I want some basic general information on this. And if I decide to move forward with this, I'm going to, deal with somebody to represent me, because I don't want to do all the work. I don't want to do all the paperwork. I don't want to, you hear nightmares, these people doing stuff on their own, and then you find out afterwards, they find out the property lines were not where they were told they were. People have right-of-ways going across their property that they never knew existed. Stuff's been in conservation land easement, and they never knew about it. I'm not doing that. I will happily pay somebody 3% or whatever the fee is to make sure none of that stuff happens to me. So, but I made my point clear on that. She says, well, okay. She goes, here's the plat. And I said, thanks. I'm looking at the property lines. And she goes, have you been pre-qualified yet? Do you have a pre-qual letter? I'm like, I don't need that. I can assure you that I can do everything I need to do if it is what I want to do. And I'm thinking in my head the whole time, yep, this is that woman that we saw treat the waiter like crap. This is a woman that nearly ran us off the road on the way up here. And now once, she saw that she wasn't going to be able to be all curtsy with me and sucker me into a soft sale or whatever. Just whatever. It's just, but my mind was made up. And I said to her, I said, well, ma'am, thank you so much for taking the time to meet with us. I said, if we decide to move forward on this, we'll let you know. And so she didn't even say goodbye. She gets back in her little car, starts turning around, calling somebody while she's doing it. She goes down the hill, and we just hear her F this, F that. So I don't know. I figure, man, this woman must be really having a bad day. So we get in the car, we go home, start heading home, pull into my driveway, put the car in park, getting ready to go in the house. Phone rings. It's my buddy the office manager of that real estate brokerage firm, whatever. He's like, dude, what'd you do to tick her off? I'm like, I didn't do nothing to tick her off. Why, what are you talking about? Well, I guess he is who she called on her way out, and she was ripping him up one side and down the other. So anyway, I told him what happened, and I told him, no, if we do decide to do anything moving forward, I didn't tell him about the potential Bigfoot Sasquatch game reserve. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Watch. That's going to be a spot where you need to rewind and see what ran through there. So anyway, he said, yeah, he says, you know, I recommended her to you. She's only been with us a month, and she hasn't closed any sales. She's been struggling, and she hops around a lot. He says, he told me, he says, this was kind of my suspicion as to why that might be, her interpersonal skills. He says, you pretty much just confirmed my suspicion. I said, well, yeah, I think. So anyway, and I haven't talked to him since that time. I'm going to turn around here just a little bit. Something ran through there. Oh my God. Guys, something's throwing stuff at me. Maybe that real estate agent's in here. I'm gonna finish this up. I gotta finish this up somewhere. I'm gonna go on the move, guys. Well, I guess I told my story, but I gotta get out of here. I guess the point is, you know, any of us, if we want to know how we look on the outside, all we gotta do is look in a mirror. But if we truly want to know how we look on the inside, perhaps get a pretty good impression of our character, let's take a look at how we treat strangers from whom we stand nothing to gain or benefit, or who we don't realize we may or we may not. But when people, quote, don't matter, do we treat them like they matter or like they don't? Is that the hermit?